Hi there, welcome to Interact. This PowerPoint presentation YouTube video is meant to provide you a sort of curriculum guideline type thing that you can apply to your Interact Club, an Interact Club that you want to start, an Interact Club, like in my case, that you feel like needs to be revamped. And hopefully you guys can apply it to your projects and ensure a successful school year. So let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information, how we plan to execute events, and how Interact really works. So I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of background information. Interact is a smaller version of Rotary International that is targeted towards 12 to 18-year-olds, so middle school / junior high, whatever you want to call it, and high school students. Now, in case you didn't know, Rotary International is an international organization that does service in their community and has been around since 1905, so they have been around for 110 years now. I think you might want to check the math on that. And Interact benefits the community as well as yourself, not only for the experience, but for providing what we like to call a service above self. That's actually Rotary's motto. Each year, the Interact Club plans to complete 3 to 4 events using this curriculum, 1 to 2 each semester. And of course, you can do more if possible. That's amazing, great, good for you. However, you really don't want to do less than this. This is kind of not the bare minimum, but it's definitely the minimum. And we are always welcome to suggestions. If you want to start an event or you're interested in something and you want to see it happen, please speak up. I'm sure the president, vice president would love to hear your ideas. I know the Interact Club that I'm directing this video or this presentation towards would always welcome suggestions. And I'm sure if you're not already wondering, how do we do this? How are we supposed to finish 3 to 4 events a year? On one hand, that might seem super easy and simple, like, oh, 3 to 4 events, I can do that in my sleep. But once you start thinking about it, it might seem overwhelming and maybe impossible at first. So you can use this as a sort of guideline for it. And we complete events by first obviously choosing a project. So we do e-waste drives. Those have been successful for us. I know other Interact clubs have done beach cleanups. I think that we've done one in the past as well. And then once you choose a project, you want to form a committee. So this should be made up of at least 3 to 6 people. If you have a larger club, you can have more people. If you have a smaller club, you can have 2 or 3 people. The committee could be all of the club if you want it. Whatever you guys want, it's really up to you. And these people work out the details and plan the entire event. So they choose a date and time first, and this process should only take 1 week. I cannot stress that enough, and how many times that choosing a date and time took a month or 2 months, because one of the biggest issues is that people try to please everyone. Not everyone is going to make it to every event, and if 2, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 people in your club can't make it to an event, that's fine. And then after you choose the date and time, you want to work out the smaller details within the committee and then present them to the club. So maybe work out a shift schedule so 2 people can work on setup and being there during the event in the morning, and a couple people responsible for materials and supplies, and a couple people responsible for taking down the event when it's over. So this is, once again, only a guideline. You guys can work the committee in whatever way you want. And lastly, advertise your event 2 weeks in advance. You do not want to advertise it too early, such as a month or a month and a half in advance, because once people start hearing about it every day, if you do school like morning announcements and advertise it every day, it's going to get boring and kids are going to tend to just disregard it. And you don't want to advertise it too late either, because people make plans before the last minute. So I think that 2 weeks is a good set of time. It's worked well in the past. And as far as meetings go, if you are to get one thing out of this video, weekly meetings is super crucial to a successful club. There are meetings every week, once a week. You can have 2 a week. I really think that once a week is enough, as long as you have it every week. If you miss 3 meetings without a good reason, we can choose to vote you out of the club. This is a crucial rule that I do like to apply to the meetings, because some kids disregard it and think it's not as important as it really is. So as an incentive for them to come to the club, be active, give their participation, if you miss 3 meetings, you're out. Even if you have a leadership position, which I will talk about in a second. And if you, without a good reason, I mean if at lunch you decide, I'm not going to go to Interact today. I'm just going to, ditch it. It's okay. They don't need me. We do need you. And that is not an acceptable reason. If you do have a good reason, such as you were taking a test, or you were sick that day, you didn't come to school, you left early, you were getting braces, you were on a field trip, whatever it may be, just let the president know so they don't count it against you. And we also keep track of which meetings people are missing. Now, leadership positions. I'm going to try not to take too much time on this. We have 5 set leadership positions. I believe you might be able to add more. And these are also able to have co-s, or what I like to call co-s. So you can have a co-president, co-presidents, you can have 2 presidents, you can have co-secretaries, co-treasurers, whatever you guys want, work it out amongst yourselves. And anyone can run for these positions. You do not need to have prior experience of being a leadership. You don't have to be the parliamentarian before you can become vice president. In fact, I became vice president with no experience, and it was the first year that the Interact Club at my school was started. So really, and I think I did okay for someone who didn't have any experience. So really, anyone can run for these positions. So first we have the parliamentarian, which has a super long name, but not a super complicated job. They keep the peace during the meetings, make sure no one talks over each other and everyone's opinions are heard, etc., things of that nature. Next, we have the secretary, who is the note taker, and they're responsible for coming up with an agenda each week, as well as a sign-in sheet, which is how we keep track of who is and who isn't at the meetings. And one thing that I did not put in here is what we call a notes from last meeting. So it's a small review of what you covered the week before in case people forget or they weren't there. Next, we have the treasurer, and that's kind of self-explanatory. They oversee funds and funding, and the treasurer works closely with the president and vice president and all the committees of all the projects, especially if it is a fundraiser or if it needs funding. That was a mouthful. And you do not have to be a math genius to do this job. I just want to put that out there. You don't need to, doesn't require postulates and theorems, so you guys are good. I'm going to skip the vice president for a second and go to the president. They run the meetings and oversee all other leadership positions and events, and they are only allowed to be president for 1 year. They cannot run the year after. So it's 1 year and then you're done, and you're what we call a past president. When the president cannot make it to the meetings, if they're sick or they had to take a test, other things of that nature, the vice president takes over. And they also assist the president during the meetings whether they're there or not. And they take over for the president the following year. So once the president's term is over, the vice president takes over the next year, And they also keep track of the sign-in sheet. And I do want to stress that the vice president becoming the president the next year, that does not apply to the other jobs. So once it doesn't go parliamentarian 1 year, then you become secretary the next year. No, you can be secretary all 3 years if you would like, treasurer for 2 years, and parliamentarian for 1. You can be vice president and then president, and you're done. You don't do anything else. You can be vice president, and then you might not want to be president the next year. Whatever you want. and that's all there is to it. So follow these guidelines and you guys are sure to have a successful year. All the other resources as well as the contact information for the Rotary Club that is sponsoring the Interact Club that I'm directing this PowerPoint towards. We have had a successful Interact Club going, especially this year, because they have used these guidelines, and they are going to continue to use these guidelines to execute all their events. And so all those other resources are listed down below, as well as the Rotary website. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Rotary International and what they do, feel free to check them out. They have a bunch of cool stuff going on right now. And remember, the most important rule of all is to have fun. Doing community service should be fun and not a chore. So that being said, if there is something you're interested in, if you love the beach but you see that there's trash all over, organize a beach cleanup. If you want to do a clothing drive or a school uniform drive, speak up. I'm sure there's a way that your Interact Club can do it. So that's all there is to it. I hope you guys found this useful, and thanks for watching.